The prospect of a police interview can be extremely worrying, all the more so if you don't know what to expect. A basic understanding of what happens at a police interview can help you stay calm and avoid unnecessary distress if you are expected to attend one. In this video, we will cover everything you need to know before you attend a police interview. Naturally, if you are expecting to attend a police interview under caution, you should take independent legal advice whenever possible. Knowing how a police interview should be conducted is vital because it will help you ensure you are treated properly. It will also mean that if you are not, you are immediately aware of this. So what is a police interview? We should stress that a police interview is a serious matter. In most cases, the police will be interviewing you because they suspect you have been involved in a criminal offence. For this reason, any decisions you make with regard to an interview should be taken with care and ideally with professional legal advice. Before we continue, we should distinguish between the two main forms that a police interview can take. A voluntary police interview refers to a situation where the police have asked you to attend an interview but you have not been placed under arrest. As the name implies, you do not have to attend a voluntary police interview. Further, if you do attend, you are free to leave at any point and you must be informed of this by the interviewing officer. Nevertheless, not attending can have serious consequences and it is not a decision to take lightly. While a voluntary police interview is voluntary, not attending can have the effect of the police simply arresting you in order to carry out the same interview. This will no doubt be a lot more stressful and potentially embarrassing depending on where you are arrested, if you're at home with young children, if you're at work with colleagues, etc. The second type of police interview is where you are placed under arrest and then interviewed. In this scenario, you have no option to leave or not to attend the interview. Furthermore, if you are placed under arrest and interviewed, you will have your photograph taken as well as your fingerprints. Your consent is not required for this. Apart from the points we've already discussed, there are a number of similarities between the two ways of being interviewed by the police. To reiterate and stress the above, in both cases the interview is a serious matter and some suspicion of a criminal offence is almost certainly involved. You should always bear in mind that you have clearly defined rights that the police must not breach. The police caution. The police caution. Whether you are being interviewed voluntarily or have been placed under arrest, in both cases you must be read the following statement. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defense if you do not mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given an evidence. This is known as the police caution and it is important that you give it a serious consideration. Firstly, the caution stresses that you do not have to say anything in the interview. This is also known as the right to silence, and this should be understood literally. You are permitted to remain silent throughout the entire interview. However, as the second part indicates, this is not necessarily the best approach. If you are ultimately taken to court for the offence or offences in question, it could be problematic if you have not taken the chance to explain yourself when you were interviewed. This can cast doubt on the truthfulness or the validity of the information you are offering. Finally, it is important to bear in mind that anything you do say can be used as evidence in court cases. We stress this because we find that many police officers conducting interviews take an informal tone or try to come across as they are your friend. They may ask seemingly broad and unrelated questions. As the caution stresses, anything you say may be given in evidence. They may have reasons for asking certain questions that are not immediately apparent to you. Your rights. In this section, we'll talk through the rights you have when being interviewed by the police. Some of these apply whether you are under arrest or not. However, we'll focus on being interviewed while under arrest for this portion of the video. If you are looking for information specifically about voluntary police interviews, please consider subscribing to our channel as we will be uploading several interview-related videos, including a dedicated video on voluntary police interviews. When you're being arrested. If you have been arrested, there are certain rights that you should be aware of outside of the specific context of the interview. When you are arrested, the police must identify themselves as police, clearly state that you are being arrested, tell you the crime that they suspect you of committing, explain the necessity for arresting you, explain that you are not free to leave. If they fail to inform you of the reason for your arrest, the arrest may have been unlawful. Following your arrest. Once you have been arrested, you will usually be taken to a police station and placed in a cell until you are interviewed. At the police station, the custody officer must explain your rights to you. You have the right to free legal advice, to tell someone where you are, to get medical attention if you are unwell, see the codes of practice, see a written notice informing you of your rights. In certain extreme cases, your right to contact someone to inform them that you've been arrested may be delayed. This would be the case if the police have reason to believe this may interfere with their investigation. The codes of practice are documents setting out what the police can and cannot do. Every police station must have copies available for you to consult. These will help you to ensure that you are fully aware of what you can expect from the police. Again, if you experience any breach of these rights or any of the requirements outlined in the Code of Practice, this may constitute police misconduct. If you suspect police misconduct in the way they have interacted with you, you should take legal advice about potential civil actions against the police. The police interview. The first point to make is that you have the right to legal representation during the interview. As indicated earlier in the video, this is an extremely good idea, and if you can't afford legal representation, you can get free legal advice from the duty solicitor. If you are under the age of 18 or are in any way vulnerable, for example, you may have a mental health condition, you are entitled to have an appropriate adult present during the interview. An appropriate adult can help support and advise you during the interview process, as well as helping to ensure the police officers interviewing you are behaving correctly. Your appropriate adult can be a parent or family member, a friend or carer, or a voluntary or paid specialist. The interview itself will begin with the officer notifying you that it is being recorded. This is usually done via a CD or other recording device and CCTV. In other words, you should assume everything you say and do in the interview room is being recorded. Once the interview starts, the police will begin their line of questioning. It may start with you being asked to identify yourself and where you live, and other very basic questions which set a yardstick on how cooperative you are. There is almost no reason not to provide or confirm these details early on in the interview. As the interview goes on, the police will begin to ask you questions about the offence you are suspected of being involved in. It's quite rare that the police will outright accuse an interviewee of being guilty of a crime. This may be done where the offence is very serious or the evidence they have is overwhelming, although usually it's actually just done as a fishing exercise in order to get a confession and apply pressure to the interviewee. You must remember that if you are asked a question that you simply do not know the answer to, it is better to reply, "I do not know," rather than saying no comment. If you do answer no comment to a question, the police will simply continue asking their other questions and do so until they've exhausted the full list. If you do decide to divulge information, you should always expect follow-up questions. For example, if you're claiming that you did not commit the offence, but it was actually somebody that you lent your car to, for example, the police will ask you who that person was and ask for contact details. You should not give details unless you're prepared for follow-up questions. Always remember that while you're free to simply remain silent, doing so can have extreme consequences. What should I do if I am not treated properly? Having been through the police interview and knowing what you should have expected, if anything happened during your arrest, interview, or the release, which does not comply with the information that you've been given, you should consider making a formal complaint to the police. Doing so will get to the bottom of what's happened, and if your rights have been violated, you could be entitled to compensation. We hope this video has been useful for anyone out there with questions regarding UK police interviews. As said throughout the video, nothing is a substitute for professional and independent legal advice. If you require any information regarding a police matter that you're involved in, please feel free to contact us via our social media channels or through our website. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing for regular legal content.